I told you there's a country so fiercely protective of its identity? It has fought for centuries just to be called by its own name. A nation whose alphabet looks like a beautiful, ancient secret, a tangle of vines and flowing branches that holds the key to its soul. A place whose history is so layered with empires, invasions, and forgotten golden ages that its capital city feels like a living, breathing paradox. This is not a simple travel destination. This is Georgia, or as the Georgians call it, Sakartvelo. It's a country that stands at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, a place where the past isn't just remembered, it's argued over in the streets, baked into the bread, and fermented in clay pots buried in the earth for 8,000 years. Forget what you think you know about post-Soviet states. We're about to peel back the layers of a nation that is one of the most complex, resilient, and intoxicatingly vibrant places on Earth. This is not just a tour, it's an investigation into the heart of the Caucasus. The first thing that strikes you in Tbilisi isn't a landmark. It's the language. It confronts you everywhere, a flowing, curvaceous script that bears no resemblance to Latin, Cyrillic, or anything most of us have ever encountered. This is Makaydruli, the modern Georgian alphabet. To a foreigner, it's an elegant enigma. But it's not just a way of writing, it's a declaration of independence, a cultural fortress that has stood firm against centuries of Persian, Ottoman, and Russian influence. While some travelogues correctly note you'll find English translations for tourists, that observation barely scratches the surface. The very existence of this script, one of only 14 unique alphabets in the world, is an act of profound defiance. It tells you immediately you are somewhere entirely, uniquely itself. Trying to pronounce a street name like Shoda Rustavali or Kodavkazi feels like unlocking a secret code, and the warm, patient smiles you get from locals when you try is your first lesson in Georgian hospitality. As you navigate the city, a second puzzle emerges: the people. You see faces that seem carved from the very mountains of the Caucasus. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaws, and proud, prominent noses that echo the figures in ancient Orthodox frescoes. These are the Georgians. But walking through the bustling Freedom Square or the seaside boulevards of Batumi, you're enveloped by a different sound, a different look. The unmistakable cadence of Russian and Ukrainian speech is everywhere. Blonde hair and blue eyes, a stark contrast to the dark hair and deep brown eyes of the locals, populate cafes and co-working spaces. This is a direct, living consequence of the war in Ukraine. But to simply label it a demographic shift is to miss the complex, simmering undercurrents. It's a modern-day echo of a centuries-old tension. On almost every official building and private balcony, you see three flags flying together: the five-cross flag of Georgia, the blue and gold stars of the European Union, and the blue and yellow of Ukraine. At night, near Freedom Square, you'll find passionate, somber anti-Russian rallies. The walls are canvases for defiance, plastered with slogans against Putin. This isn't just in sympathy, it's a visceral, shared trauma. For Georgia, the fight for Ukraine's sovereignty is a chilling reflection of its own ongoing struggle. For them, tanks rolling across a neighbor's border isn't a news report, it's a memory. To understand why this tiny nation feels this conflict so personally, we can't just look at today's headlines. We have to dig into the earth, into the very foundations of its tormented and glorious history. Georgia's story begins long before Russia or the Soviet Union existed. Its roots dig deep into the soil of antiquity, into the legendary kingdoms of Caucasus on the Black Sea coast. The fabled land of the Golden Fleece, sought by Jason and the Argonauts, forever embedding Georgia into the consciousness of the classical world, and the powerful kingdom of Iberia in the heartland. For millennia, this strategic location, this bridge between worlds, made it a prize to be fought over. The Byzantines, Arabs, Persians, Mongols, Ottomans, and Russians all left their mark, painting a picture of a nation perpetually under siege. And while true, this narrative of victimhood is dangerously incomplete. It misses the most important chapter in the Georgian psyche, its golden age. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, under visionary rulers like King David the Builder and the legendary Queen Tamar, Georgia was not a vassal state. It was a powerful, unified Caucasian empire. David the Builder's astonishing victory at the Battle of Didgori in 1121, where his small army crushed a massive Seljuk Turk force, is a foundational story of national pride. Queen Tamar, one of history's great female rulers, presided over an era of unprecedented cultural flourishing, military strength, and religious tolerance. This was a thriving center of Christian orthodoxy, art, and philosophy. This is the period that forged the nation's unshakable sense of self. The national flag, the five-cross flag, isn't just a symbol of Christ's 5 wounds. It's a revival of a banner from this very era of strength and glory, a deliberate reminder to the world, and to themselves, of what they once were. So when Tsarist Russia began its creeping annexation of Georgia in the early 19th century, it wasn't just conquering territory, it was extinguishing a proud, independent civilization. The subsequent century under the Soviet Union sought to erase this identity further. The process of Russification was brutal. The Georgian language was suppressed, the autocephalous, self-governing Georgian Orthodox Church was persecuted, and its intellectual class was systematically purged by a regime led by a man who was, in a twist of dark irony, Georgian himself, Iosif Jukashvili, better known as Joseph Stalin. When the Soviet Union finally crumbled, Georgia declared its independence on April 9, 1991. But freedom came at a horrifying price. The deep-seated ethnic tensions, stoked and manipulated during the Soviet era, exploded into war. This brings us to the autonomous republics, mentioned so briefly in many travelogues. Abkhazia and South Ossetia are not mere administrative regions. They are open, bleeding wounds on the map and in the soul of the nation. Following brutal wars in the 1990s and a final, decisive war with Russia in 2008, these territories are now under Russian military occupation, their self-proclaimed independence recognized by only a handful of Russian allies. For Georgians, this isn't a distant political issue. It's a national trauma embodied by hundreds of thousands of internally displaced persons, IDPs. Georgians who lost their homes, their land, and their past, and now live as refugees in their own country. It's a daily reality seen in the creeping occupation, where Russian forces methodically move border fences a few feet further into Georgian territory overnight, swallowing up farmland and even family homes. This is why the Ukrainian flags fly so high in Tbilisi. It's why the presence of so many Russians, even those fleeing their own government, creates a palpable, complex tension beneath the surface of daily life. But if you think Georgia's story is defined solely by conflict, you are missing its heart. To find the true, unbreakable soul of this nation, you don't go to a government building or a historical monument. You go to a dinner table, the single greatest omission in any surface level look at Georgia is its food and its wine. This isn't just about sustenance, it's a sacred ritual, a celebration of life, community, and hospitality. Let's start with what many call the national dish, khachapuri. To call it cheese bread is a profound understatement, akin to calling a symphony some music. There are dozens of regional varieties, but the most iconic is the Ajuruli Khachapuri. It's a magnificent boat of leavened bread, its hull filled with a molten sea of salguni and Imeruli cheeses, crowned with a raw egg yolk and a generous pat of butter that you stir into the glorious, bubbling center just before eating. Tearing off the golden crusts and dipping them into this divine concoction is a rite of passage. Then there is kinkali. These are not delicate dumplings. They are hefty, twisted knobs of dough traditionally filled with spiced meat and, crucially, a rich, savory broth sealed inside. There is an art to eating them. You hold it by the top knot, the kudi, or hat, which is not eaten. You take a small bite from the side, carefully slurp out the hot, flavorful soup, and only then do you devour the rest. It's messy, it's communal, and it's utterly delicious. The feast continues with dishes like Badrejani Nigzit, tender rolls of fried eggplant filled with a spicy, garlicky walnut paste, and lobio, a hearty red bean stew slow, cooked with herbs, and served in a traditional clay pot. But even this incredible food is just the opening act for the main event: wine. Georgia is not just a wine-producing country, it is the scientifically confirmed birthplace of wine. Archaeological evidence shows that Georgians have been cultivating grapes and fermenting them into wine for at least 8,000 years. What makes it truly unique is the method. For millennia, Georgians have made wine in massive, beeswax-lined terracotta vessels called kuvevri. These giant clay amphorae are buried underground, where the grapes, skins, stems, and all ferment and mature at a naturally constant temperature. This ancient technique, recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage, produces wines of incredible complexity, particularly the amber or orange. Wines that are now a global trend, but have been a Georgian staple for centuries. Made from grapes like Rakatsateli, their powerful red wines, like those from the Saperavi grape, are deep, dark, and full of character. All of this culminates in the supra, the traditional Georgian feast. A supra is not a meal, it's an hours-long performance of hospitality, poetry, and song led by a tamada or toastmaster. The tamada is a revered figure, chosen for his eloquence and wit. He leads the table through a series of elaborate, heartfelt toasts. To God, to Georgia, to peace, to parents, to the departed, to the future. Each toast is a short speech, a philosophical reflection, and after each, polyphonic singing. Another UNESCO heritage might erupt, a hauntingly beautiful sound that seems to rise from the earth itself. It is through the supra that you understand the Georgian spirit. Generous to a fault, deeply connected to family and tradition, and possessing an unshakable belief in the goodness of life. This is the cultural bedrock no empire could ever conquer. So, how do you navigate this city of profound contrasts? The presence of both left-hand and right-hand drive cars, many of them older German luxury models, isn't just a quirky fact. It's a sign of a freewheeling, post-Soviet economy where imported used cars from Japan's right-hand drive and Europe the left-hand drive offer an affordable path to status and mobility. The taxi situation is a perfect microcosm of this transitional state. The white taxis have no meters. This isn't a scam by design, it's a relic of an informal economy. The advice to agree on a price beforehand, using a ride-sharing app like Bolt or Yandex to show the route and fare estimate, is not just a tip. It's essential for fair pricing. For longer distances, you'll encounter the marshrutka, shared minivans that run on loosely, defined schedules and routes, a chaotic but deeply authentic and cheap way to travel between cities. As you explore, you'll be drawn to the modern architectural statements that dot the cityscape: the Bridge of Peace, a shimmering glass and steel structure, and the futuristic Reich Park Concert Hall were built under the presidency of Mikhail Saakashvili. They were controversial, expensive projects, but they were also a deliberate, forceful statement. Georgia is turning its back on its gray Soviet past and embracing a transparent, modern European future. To get the best view of this juxtaposition, take the cable car from Reich Park up to the Narikala Fortress. For just a couple of lari, you ascend from the hyper-modern park over the ancient Mitveri River towards the 4th century fortress that has stood as the city's sentinel for 700 years. From the top, the entire story of Tbilisi is laid out before you. Look down upon the crooked wooden balconies and winding alleys of the old town. See the domed brick roofs of the Abanochubani sulfur baths, the very place where legend says King Vakhtang, Gorgasali's hunting falcon, fell into a hot spring, leading him to found a city he named Tbilisi, meaning warm place. Gaze at the grandeur of the Holy Trinity Cathedral, built after independence as a massive symbol of religious revival. And standing guard over it all is the colossal statue of Cartless Data, Mother of Georgia. In one hand, she holds a bowl of wine to welcome friends, and in the other, a sword for her enemies. No single image better encapsulates the Georgian national character. Don't just look at these places. Understand them as chapters in a long and turbulent book. Visit the whimsical leaning clock tower of the Puppet Theater, a modern fairy tale embedded in the old city. Brave a traditional scrub down in a sulfur bath. This is how you transform from a tourist into an explorer. Tbilisi is not a city you simply see, it's a city you must learn to read, to decipher. It's a testament to the idea that a nation's identity is not a monument set in stone, but a living, breathing, and often contentious conversation between its past and its future. It is a place where every meal is a history lesson, every toast is a prayer for peace, and every street corner tells a story of survival. Georgia doesn't just offer beautiful landscapes and delicious food. It offers a profound lesson in resilience, a reminder that even after 8 millennia of turmoil, a culture can hold fast to its soul with a glass of wine in one hand and a sword in the other. What part of Georgia's complex story surprised you the most? The ancient wine, the ongoing political scars, or the depth of its hospitality? Share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. If this journey opened a new perspective for you, please share this video with a fellow traveler who loves to dig deeper than the tourist trail. Subscribe for more in-depth explorations of the world's most fascinating and misunderstood places. And if you're intrigued by another nation with a complex and resilient past, check out our video on the surprising history of